प्रणवार्ताय निर्मलाय प्रशांताय श्री दक्षिणामूर्तये नमः. Haryamila ji, we can get started with the Dhyana opening prayers.
सहना भवतु सहनौ भुनक्तु सह वीर्यं करवावहै तेजस्विनावधीतमस्तु मा विद्विषावहै. ॐ शान्ति शान्ति शान्तिः. सदाशिवसमारम्भाम् शङ्कराचार्यमध्यमाम् अस्मदाचार्यपर्यन्ताम् वन्दे गुरुपरम्पराम्. श्रुतिस्मृतिपुराणानाम् आलयं करुणालयम् नमामि भगवत्पादम् शङ्करं लोकशङ्करम्. शङ्करं शङ्कराचार्यं केशवं बादरायणम् सूत्रभाष्यकृतो वन्दे भगवन्तो पुनः पुनः. समस्तजनकल्याणे निरतं करुणामयम् नमामि चिन्मयं देवं सद्गुरुं ब्रह्मविद्वरम्. ईश्वरो गुरुरात्मेति मूर्तिभेदविभागिने व्योमवद्व्याप्तदेहाय दक्षिणामूर्तये नमः. ॐ सच्चिदानन्दरूपाय विश्वोत्पत्त्यादिहेतवे तापत्रयविनाशाय श्रीकृष्णाय वयं नमः. ॐ श्रीकृष्ण परमात्मने नमः. पार्थाय प्रतिबोधितां भगवता नारायणेन स्वयं व्यासेन ग्रथितां पुराणमुनिना मध्ये महाभारतम् अद्वैतामृतवर्षिणीं भगवतीम् अष्टादशाध्यायिनीम् अम्ब त्वामनुसन्दधामि भगवद्गीते भवद्वेषिणी. नमोऽस्तु ते व्यासविशालबुद्धे पुल्लारविन्दायतपत्रनेत्र येन त्वया भारततैलपूर्णः प्रज्वालितो ज्ञानमयः प्रदीपः प्रपन्नपारिजाताय स्तोत्रवैश्रैकपाणये ज्ञानमुद्राय कृष्णाय गीतामृतदुहे नमः. सर्वोपनिषदो गावो दोक्ता गोपालनन्दनः पार्थो वत्सः सुधीर्भोक्ता दुक्तं गीतामृतं महत्. वसुदेवसुतं देवं कंसचाणूरमर्दनं देवकी परमानन्दं कृष्णं वन्दे जगद्गुरुम्. भीष्मद्रोणतटा जयद्रथजला गान्धारनीलोत्पला शल्यग्राहवती कृपेण वहनी कर्णेन वेलाकुला अस्वस्थामविकर्णघोरमकरा दुर्योधनावर्तिनी सोत्तीर्णा खलु पाण्डवे रणनदी कैवर्तकः केशवः पाराशर्यवचः सरोजममलं गीतार्धगन्धोत्कटम् नानाख्यानककेशरं हरिकथा सम्बोधना बोधितम् लोके सज्जन षट्पदैरहरः पेपीयमानं मुदा भूयात् भारत पंकजं कलिमल प्रध्वंसिना श्रेयसे मूकं करोति वाचालं पंगुं लङ्घयते गिरिं यत्कृपातमहं वन्दे परमानन्दनमाधवम् यं ब्रह्मा वरुणेन्द्ररुद्रमरुतः स्तुन्वन्ति दिव्यैस्तवैः वेदैः साङ्गपदक्रमोपनिषदैः गायन्ति यं सामगाः ध्यानावस्थिततत्कतेन मनसा पश्यन्ति यं योगिनो यस्यान्तं न विदुः सुरासुरगणा देवाय तस्मै नमः देवाय तस्मै नमः ओम श्री कृष्ण परमात्मने नमः
Hari Om. Chinmaya Sadgurave Namaha. Welcome everyone for tonight's discussion on Vibhuti Yoga. Our speaker and today our teacher is going to be Swami Anukoolananda ji. He is presenting himself from Coimbatore, India, and he is heading the Chinmaya International Residential School and is also the director of National Youth Empowerment Program. So it was back in 2020 during the COVID, when there was Gita Fest going on, that all of us have listened, most of us, if not, have listened to Swamiji's a unique style and a unique way of attracting the attention of all the listeners and drawing the attention towards this Gita Amrit. So just there are a few house rules. Tonight, please make sure whoever is asked to speak, kindly unmute yourself. And if there are any distractions that you are having through, please try to shut off, because what you are going to listen from Swamiji today are Shuddha mantras. These are the pure words of nectar from Bhagwan himself, the Supreme Lord himself speaking. So these are the words. So I humbly request each of you all to give your undivided attention to Swamiji in his talk, and he will, after his summary, he will go over the questions that we have received and forwarded it. So before that, I would request Srikanji to share the intro video of Swamiji.
Once a chick, always a chick. Look at the life of an Olympic medalist. Look at the life of an Olympic aspirant. How disciplined is their life. Why? Because they've got great aspirations, and for great aspirations, petty desire has to be given. Is it not?
Audio.
A master painter does not complete his painting all at once. First, in the canvas, he draws the outlines and then goes to paint in a few details. Then he steps back, observes his painting, sees what more he needs to add, goes back to the canvas, and with the brushes, completes his painting. Step by step, he adds intricacies, adding more and more beauty to that masterpiece. So too, Bhagavan Sri Krishna, in the canvas of Arjuna's mind, paints his masterpiece, the Bhagavad Gita. Chapter after chapter, Bhagavan adds details by which Arjuna's mind is filled with his great knowledge. This masterpiece, the Bhagavad Gita of Sri Krishna. In every chapter, at the end, we have the colophon, which says that the Bhagavad Gita is not just a Brahma Vidya, but also a Yoga Shastra. The Bhagavad Gita gives us the highest ideals as Brahma Vidya, as Upanishads, and at the same time, it also gives to us the path that we need to tread to reach that absolute goal. And thus, as the Yoga Shastra, it guides the seeker to the ultimate attainment. Every chapter of the Bhagavad Gita is both Brahma Vidya as well as Yoga Shastra. But this 10th chapter in particular focuses on the Yoga Shastra, the technique of attaining that highest, the technique by which the seeker can go from the gross to the subtle, can move from the lower to the higher, and can reach that absolute state of Godhood. This Vibhuti Yoga, this knowledge that Bhagavan talks of, is indeed covered in the earlier chapters. Yet, knowing the difficulty of this knowledge, out of compassion, Bhagavan once again teaches Arjuna this knowledge. So he says, Hey Arjuna, Bhuya eva mahabaho shrunu me paramam vachaha yatteham priyamanaya vakshyami hitakamyaya. Hey Arjuna, shrunu, listen, and listen carefully, for I am here uttering the words of the supreme knowledge. Paramam vachaha. So what is this paramam vachaha? What are the supreme words that Bhagavan is uttering? That he inspires Arjuna to listen carefully. He says, Hey Arjuna, out of great concern for your well-being, do I say these words. And I say these because you love to hear them. So what is this Paramam Vachaha that Bhagavan is talking about? Bhagavan says, Hey Arjuna, yo mam vetti, the one who knows me, that person, those people.
Back to you, Gopal.
Swamiji, welcome to the session. And first of all, thank you so much. The Vibhuti here is hearing your voice, and we feel like you have been present during the dialogue between Bhagavan Sri Krishna and Arjuna. That's how you made us feel in your talk. So today, we want to really listen to you, to your voice directly, and clear our asamuda.
Hari Om and pranams to all of you. So it's most wonderful to connect with all of you, and thanks to technology that we can speak across continents today. So this brings back memories of the beautiful Gita Fest that all of us had the opportunity to enjoy from chapter 1 to chapter 18, and I got the blessing to speak on the 10th chapter of the Gita. So the most important aspect of philosophy is covered here, and that is the completeness of realization and the experience that a devotee of Bhagavan will have. Philosophy is called Darshana Shastra in Indian philosophical context. So the Darshana is supposed to explain to us not just what we are, but it is also supposed to explain to us what this world is. So both aspects are to be explained to us by the philosophy. Something very, very beautiful about our philosophy is not just the divinity of the creator, but also the divinity of the creation. So thus, to realize the truth or to realize the absolute is not to only recognize the divinity in the supreme absolute aspect of God, but also to see that the same divinity is what not only pulsates in every aspect of creation, but it is the same divinity that is present as the entire creation. Of course, we can draw parallels with modern science when we talk about how the same fundamental energy is that which becomes matter in this entire world. So thus, to recognize energy as only one aspect of creation, to recognize energy as only the cause of the creation would be really to know the energy in its partial aspect. But really to recognize that it is the same energy which is the fundamental force of the entire universe, which also appears in its gross form as the entire physical matter, that is to recognize energy in its totality. In the same way, this consciousness absolute, which is supreme, which is beyond all human faculties of perception, this truth, which is the cause of the entire universe as Ishvara, himself is not diverse from the world, but he himself becomes the building principle of the entire world, and thus Bhagavan alone appears as the entire creation. So therefore, for realization to be complete, the realized master not only sees God, not only sees the supreme truth in his state of meditation, but he sees the same darshana, he has the same vision even when he is not in the seat of meditation. With his eyes open, he sees the same divinity around. So that spirituality is not an experience only in the seat of meditation. Spirituality is the vision that the person gains all through life. Swami Vimalananji used to say very, very beautifully, she used to say that prayer is not a part-time pastime. She used to say prayer is a full-time awareness of this divinity, of this truth all around. So thus, to recognize Bhagavan, not just in the altar that we sit in front of, but to recognize the same Bhagavan as the one who is present all over in the world, as the world, that is to recognize Bhagavan in his entirety. So thus, Bhagavan himself mentions what it is to know him in completeness. So he says, one has to know me in the yoga aspect, and one has to know me in the vibhuti aspect. So what is the yoga aspect and what is the vibhuti aspect? Both are very, very beautifully conveyed in this beautiful chapter called the 10th chapter. No doubt, the 10th chapter again focuses very, very deeply on the vibhuti aspect. Why so? Because the yoga aspect was very deeply discussed and elaborated in the 9th chapter. So Bhagavan gave us, in Hindi we call it a pehlu. Bhagavan gives us a, I forget what we call it in English. He gives us a riddle. Yes, he gives us a riddle in the 9th chapter to recognize truly who he is in the yoga aspect. He says, as all of you would have discussed in the earlier classes, I am not in them, they are in me, and finally he says, they are also not in me. So this you would have discussed very, very deeply. So in that, Bhagavan shows to us that he is the self of the entire creation. He is the Atma of the entire manifestation that we see. So in everything as the fundamental principle of consciousness, in everything as the fundamental principle of existence, it is Bhagavan and Bhagavan alone who is there. Devoid of Sat, everything has to be Asat. So in our regional languages that we say, without Shiva, everything is Shava only. So thus Bhagavan is the Atma, the self of everybody. So thus to recognize Bhagavan in yoga, we studied the 9th chapter. The 10th chapter elaborates to us the beauty of Bhagavan in the manifest aspect. So Bhagavan says in the 10th chapter, the one who recognizes my yoga and my vibhuti, such a person, what do? I remove the veil of the darkness of ignorance. So where is the veil of darkness of ignorance? And that is in our own hearts. So Bhagavan removes the veil of the darkness of ignorance that is present in our own heart. So now the question is, how does Bhagavan remove that? Bhagavan says, I who am already present in your heart. Atma Bhavast, I stay in your own heart. Jnana Deepena Bhaswata, by lighting this lamp of knowledge. So that is why, for our understanding, moksha is not about going somewhere. Moksha is translated as realization. So beautifully, it will be shown in the next chapter, which is the 11th chapter. Vishwarupa Darshana is not about the Lord manifesting something. So it is only in those serials of Mahabharata that we have seen that Bhagavan suddenly grows bigger and bigger and bigger. And Bhagavan grows so big that one serial, one episode is not enough. So it continues to the next episode. But truly, that is not what Bhagavan says in the Bhagavad Gita. Bhagavan says, hey Arjuna, I am already the Vishwarupa. It is only that you are not able to see it. So therefore, Bhagavan says, Dadami Divyam Te Chakshuhu. So here, Arjuna, let me give you those divine eyes by which you recognize my nature as this entire creation, entire manifestation. So to Bhagavan, it is because of the wheel of ignorance that is there in our heart that our vision is restricted to the material aspect of creation, and it is unable to go deeper to see the divine aspect which is pulsating through everything as everything. The philosophy itself is so beautifully represented in our culture through the Puranas also. So thus we have Bhagavan taking avatar in all ways and in all forms possible. So we have Bhagavan's avatar as starting even from the fish to Bhagavan manifesting in his total aspect as Krishna and as the teacher Buddha and everything. The same Bhagavan also in his 10th avatar becomes Kalki, where the creation is dissolved and again Dharma is established. So when we see anything and everything in this universe, to recognize that this is Bhagavan and to realize that this is Bhagavan, that is the ultimate state of liberation, that is the ultimate state of realization that all of us reach. So thus Bhagavan guides Arjuna. So Arjuna says, "Oh Bhagavan, you have told me about the yoga, which is so amazing and most beautiful. But this Vibhuti, you yourself have said that not even the rishis and the munis have seen you in the entirety. In fact, when we take the Bhagavat, Markandeya wanted to see the entire creation, and Bhagavan shows how this entire creation is his own creation, and by Maya, he has veiled himself from this entire creation. And Markandeya is spellbound having this particular vision. So even though people recognize, even though these great saints and sages recognize the divinity of Bhagavan, yet to see Bhagavan as everything. Sadashiva Brahmendra was one of the great saints in South India. He, in a state of realization, breaks out in an amazing song. And he says, Sarvam Brahmamayam. Re Re Sarvam Brahmamayam. Everything is Brahman. Everything is Brahman. Kim Vachaniyam. What am I to say? Kim Vachaniyam. What am I not to say? Because I am speechless having this amazing darshan that only Brahman and Brahman is pulsating everywhere as this absolute truth. So this Brahman is what I am recognizing and I am seeing. So this Vibhuti, the expression of the Lord as this entire creation, is what we have to recognize. How do we recognize this Vibhuti? Our minds are fascinated by the extraordinary. The ordinary does not fascinate our mind. And therefore, Bhagavan draws our attention first to the fascinating aspects of creation. The sun is most amazing and fascinating among all the heavenly objects. The sky The stars are always there, but when the moon rises in its full manifestation, then that captures our eye. Of course, there are animals all over the place, but when Garuda flies, when the lion comes, then we sit up and watch. Bhagavan shows to us that every vibhuti, every glory that we all see in this manifest world, that glory is nothing but mine and mine alone. So thus, in the glory that fascinates your mind, let your mind be uplifted, not be stuck with the expression that you find in the world, but let those expressions that happen in the world take your mind towards Bhagavan. Do not get caught in just the dance that you watch, but that beauty in the dancer and in the moment of those beautiful steps. It is I who am pulsating. It is I who am present. Coming closer and closer, the great qualities that manifest in people, the nobility that manifests in all people, that nobility, the brilliance, the creativity, the power of memory, the power of compassion that manifests in people and make them really noble, that is me alone. The life that pulsates in everybody and that makes all of us live the beauty of life, that is me and me alone. So thus Bhagavan says, among the warriors, Arjuna, I am you. Again, among the great Kshatriyas, of course, I am Sri Rama himself. Thus, giving one example, Bhagavan not only expresses himself as what we call living, Bhagavan says even those that we call as non-living, that non-living, so to say, is also me. So therefore, when it comes to philosophy, we go beyond even material biology of living and non-living, because consciousness is beyond even the concept of life in living and non-living beings. So it is only in one aspect that we talk about Jada and Chetana. Jada, the inert, and Chetana, the conscious. That is in the biological material aspect of division of creation. But in philosophy, we see even that which we call non-living is nothing but the expression of the same truth, the same consciousness. So the same Sachidananda, the same Atma is present as the living, and the same Sachidananda Atma is present as the non-living. So Bhagavan says, Thavaranam Himalaya. I am Himalaya among the mountains. Among the collections of water bodies, I am the ocean. According to our classification, we need to classify them as non-living. But yet, it is the same divinity which expresses as the living and the non-living. So therefore, every boundary breaks. And thus, this entire world is seen as nothing but the absolute, true, absolute consciousness. So thus, seeing this entirety, to start as sadhana, to see the magnificent, to see the great manifestations as Bhagavan's expression, and then to see every manifestation as Bhagavan himself, that is the progress in realization of this absolute truth. So thus, sitting in the state of meditation, one realizes the yoga aspect, the Atma as Sachidananda, and in the practice of living, one recognizes that same Atma as expressing as this entire creation. So thus Bhagavan, as in the 15th, as in the 11th chapter, that he would say, Antar Bahischa Tat Sarvam Narayana Sthidam. Within and without, everywhere that I see, Narayana alone remains. So that great vision is what is the aim of our Shastra. This is not a creation. This is but the realization of what already exists. So thus, this chapter, in almost 36 strokes, in almost 36 examples, helps us recognize that amazing divinity that is everywhere. So that becomes the unique aspect of this beautiful chapter. And Bhagavan concludes, it's very, very interesting. So when Arjuna asks, Arjuna says, please explain to me elaborately, what are your glories? Because that is how the student should ask. Student should never tell the teacher, please explain briefly. Because the student should gather as much knowledge as possible. But the teacher says, I will point out to you briefly. Because Ananta Vaibhavam, my glories are infinite. When do I stop? How do I point out everything to you? So therefore, though Arjuna asks, please elaborate, Bhagavan says, I will briefly tell you. And thus Bhagavan, in conclusion, Bhagavan says, Nantosti mama divyanam vibhutinam parantapa. So, Eshata uddeshata proktaha. So, I have just pointed out to you a few samples, uddesha, a few samples of my vibhuti. And Bhagavan says, hey Arjuna, let me summarize for you. He says, Yad yad vibhuti mat sattvam srimadudjitameva va tat tadeva avagachatvam mama tejomsha sambhavam. He says, wherever you see glory, O Arjuna, recognize that that is nothing but the manifestation of a small part of my teja, of my brilliance. Come to recognize then the whole, the entirety of my brilliance. Saying that, Bhagavan concludes this beautiful chapter called the 10th chapter, the Vibhuti Yoga. So this in summary is the 10th chapter itself. Thank you very much.
So we have few questions that have been pre-screened so that there is no duplication. So in no particular order, Swamiji, we will just go over a few questions from our study group members. So starting with the very first question, the very first verse, basically it says, the Bhagavan Vacha भूय एव महाबाहो शृणु मे परमं वचः यत्तेहं प्रियमाणाय वक्ष्यामि हितकाम्यया. Why does, question one is, why does Bhagavan address Arjuna as Mahabaho?
Mhm.
And why is he wanting to repeat? He's saying Paramavacha, like something, what did we miss from the previous verses, that he is saying, I shall repeat something that is beneficial to you. So that's the first question.
Fine. So, in the Shastra tradition, it is said repetition is considered a defect. However, it is considered, so repetition is called punarukti. Fine. Punarukti is considered a defect in the Vedas. However, the Bhagavad Gita is not a Veda in that sense. Bhagavad Gita is a very loving teaching of Sri Krishna to Arjuna. So, first of all, Arjuna is not that perfected student of the Vedas. No doubt, to listen to this knowledge from Bhagavan himself, Arjuna is so evolved. Arjuna is a tapasvi by himself. However, to understand this philosophical insight, Arjuna still is preparing himself. So here Bhagavan is more not like the Vedic teacher or the Upanishadic teacher. The Bhagavan is like the loving cowherd, as it was said in the Gita Dhyana shlokas. So very lovingly, Bhagavan is trying to explain in so many wonderful ways how this truth can be realized. So therefore, each chapter of the Bhagavad Gita can stand alone as a text. Because each chapter to us gives us the highest knowledge, plus it gives us to us the means of reaching this highest knowledge also. So what Bhagavan does, as we said in the 9th chapter, Bhagavan very beautifully elaborates on the yoga aspect. And here in the 10th chapter, Bhagavan elaborates on the vibhuti aspect. So thus, together, the 9th and the 10th chapter becomes the elaboration of both the yoga and the vibhuti aspect. Bhagavan has mentioned it when we read the 9th chapter verses. Bhagavan has mentioned it also. Yet, to bring it to the attention more clearly for Arjuna, Bhagavan places it very, very, very evidently so that Arjuna can see the whole thing. So therefore, the 10th chapter becomes very, very relevant. A highest student would have already seen it. When Bhagavan in the Vedas mentions Tattvamasi Aham Brahmasmi, Prajnanam Brahma, the student understands, realizes and goes. But here, the student has to be guided to see everything, and therefore, it becomes important that Bhagavan once again explains it to the student. And why so? Very beautifully, Bhagavan uses the word Anasuyave in the 9th chapter also. That was one of the questions. So what is the meaning of Anasuyu? The reference or the answer to a question in the Bhagavad Gita comes from the Bhagavad Gita itself. So therefore, Anasuyu, there is one more reference of Anasuyu in the 3rd chapter of the Gita. Bhagavan says, Shraddhavanto no suyantaha. He says, you are one who has faith. And therefore, you are anasuyu. You are one who is free from the limited thinking of being critical, limited thinking of finding small faults and doubts. You are one who are trying to realize that absolute vision. How do you do that? You do that by having Shraddha. So, having Shraddha makes us Anasoyu. Having Shraddha makes us a fit disciple. Because what the Guru is trying to point out to us is something so much far beyond our plane of experience and our understanding at this particular moment. The Guru tells us, Brahma Satyam Jagat Mithya. The truth is Brahman. The world that you are experiencing today is an illusion. But what is our experience? Exactly diametrically the opposite. And what is that? Jagat Satyam Brahma Mithya. Is that not true? So our experience is this world is true and Brahman, yeah, probably is Satyam. I have not seen that Brahman. Second, you are telling me that I am infinite, but I experience myself as finite. You are telling me I am deathless, I never grow old, but Swamiji, every year my children and my grandchildren are now reminding me. So therefore, our experience is diametrically opposite. And yet, the Vedas and my Guru is telling that I am Brahman. Puja Gurudev, when he talks about Tapan Maharaj Ji and his learning there, Gurudev mentions in one place that if I do not recognize my master, Swami Tapovanam, as Brahman himself, how am I to realize that I am Brahman? And thus, to now understand that the Guru is declaring the truth which is declared in the Vedas. So that is true. It is for me to inquire and realize this truth. That quality is called the quality of an Anasuyu. Duryodhana never ever believed that Bhagavan was Bhagavan. Let us not be of the idea that Bhagavan's divinity was recognized by everybody, even at Bhagavan's time. People question Lord Krishna's divinity now, that is understandable. People questioned Lord Krishna's divinity when Lord Krishna was present there. Be it Shishupala or be it Duryodhana or be it his allies. They failed to recognize Bhagavan's divinity. But here was Arjuna who presents himself saying, Oh Bhagavan, Shishyasteham, Shadhimam Tvam Prapannam. He says, I surrender to you. I understand that what you're saying is, of course, the truth. But I'm not able to grasp it. So therefore, Bhagavan, teach me. To such a student who is full of receptivity, who is an Anasuyu, Bhagavan's love pours out. And that outpouring of love and concern for such a sincere student is this Bhagavad Gita. So that is what is the idea of the uniqueness of this particular chapter, that Bhagavan once again points out, so that it becomes clear to Arjuna.
Thank you. I think you answered Bhavana's question also on the Anasuya. Thank you so much. So in the next question is by Padmaji. What is Buddhi Yoga? How can we attain it?
So yes, so here we have, as we said, knowledge and emotion. Both are the instruments by which we realize the truth. So one is to recognize Bhagavan in my relationship with Bhagavan. So that is of the mind. But to recognize Bhagavan in his true aspect, that is of the intellect and that is of the buddhi. So here, when we say Buddhi Yoga, the understanding is of realizing that Bhagavan is of that absolute nature. I'm sure many of you here are very, very successful people in your own fields. When you go to your office, maybe there are hundreds and probably thousands of people who recognize your greatness, who recognize who you are. But when you come home, your son or daughter playfully comes and sits on your lap, which nobody in your office would even dare to come 3 feet near you. They would rather stand up and say namaste, namaste. Or they would wish you good morning, sir. Both of them recognize a different aspect of us. The son or the daughter in our house connect to us emotionally. And that also is an amazing connect, no doubt. But when the son grows up to recognize our greatness, then he says, oh, daddy, mummy, this is what you are. I never knew. So this Buddhi Yoga is where one recognizes the absolute nature of Bhagavan. Not just the relative relationship that I have with Bhagavan, but the one with whom I'm relating is actually the absolute truth. So recognizing this absolute nature is called Buddhi Yoga. So first, Bhagavan brings us to himself. And when we reach Bhagavan's feet, close to him, when we seek to know Bhagavan in his real nature, so then to such people who are ready to recognize and understand this truth, Bhagavan reveals his real nature. And that is called Buddhi Yoga. There's a very beautiful story in Maharashtra. There was a time when all the saints had manifested at the same time in Maharashtra. So we had Ghora Kumbhar was one of the saints. Then we had Namdev as one of the saints, Jnaneshwar Maharaj, and so many other saints. So it is said they were all sitting together one time, and the other saints told Ghora Kumbhar. Ghora Kumbhar was basically a potter who had realized Bhagavan. So then the other saints told Ghora Kumbhar, please check among us which pot is baked properly and which pot is still unbaked. So what Ghora Kumbhar typically does, he takes a small stick and beats on the head of each and knocks on the head of each saint. And he says, this is a properly baked pot, this is a properly baked pot. And when he comes to Namdev, he says, this pot still needs a little baking to do. Namdev is put off because Namdev is one with whom Sri Krishna used to play. Namdev becomes upset that you told me that I am a unbaked pot, I am not fully baked. He runs to Krishna. And he says, Krishna, they offended me by saying such a thing. Am I still unbaked? So then Krishna says, there is a little more for you to know about me. And that is the Buddhi Yoga. To recognize the greatness of Bhagavan is one, but to recognize that Bhagavan himself is this is another. And that is the Buddhi Yoga that Sri Krishna talks about here. That ajnana, the ignorance that is veiling us, that keeps us separate from that absolute, that ajnana to be removed, one gets the Buddhi Yoga. That is the idea.
Thank you.
Thank you.
I think we have time for just a couple of more questions. So one recognizes by reading this chapter, Yachapi Sarva Bhutanam, without him, there is nothing that is, in his absence or his presence is felt, his glory is present everywhere. Yet in our day-to-day life, we fail to recognize amongst our own daily practical life. So what sort of living should we practice so that we can have this as a Gita way of life?
So, Gurudev had his unique way of teaching all of us. And I'm sure that many of you have been witness of Gurudev's teaching. So what we want to keep in our mind should be present as reminders to us all the time. Two aspects of sadhana needs to be done. One is the exclusive aspect, and the second is the general aspect. So, as the exclusive aspect, exclusive time with Bhagavan needs to be spent. Some sort of sadhana where exclusive time is given, that brings intensity of connection with Bhagavan. So therefore, exclusive time becomes very important. Apart from that, continuous remembrance, continuous reminders that Bhagavan is the one who is there always has to be done. So Gurudev would give the example of how the wife would ensure that her photograph is present everywhere that her husband looks. By to remind him that she is the one that he has committed himself to. So when he opens the purse, her photograph would be there. When he opens the tiffin box, her photograph would be there. Some signature of hers has to be there because she knows his mind is fickle. And therefore, such reminders have to be given. That is why in India, also in our culture, we have the practice of putting Bhagavan's photograph everywhere. Some sign of Bhagavan we put all over the place. And that is the method by which continuously we can remember that it is Bhagavan and it is Bhagavan alone that is present everywhere. So to put up reminders in so many different ways, that is the way by which we can remember Bhagavan always, not only in visual, but also in verbal. So that is why even to greet each other as Ram Ram, to greet each other with Hari Om, becomes a very big shift from not remembering Bhagavan to remembering Bhagavan in every conversation. So we have verbal reminders, we have visual reminders, plus we have reminders with even our actions, where we do namaskar and we salute whomever and whatever we see, we salute. So in our cultural expression or in the cultural practices, we have the recognition of divinity embedded. That has continued in our Indian practices even today. Be it even the traditional games like Kabaddi, they would not enter the court without bowing down to the court. They would not leave the court without bowing down to the court because they recognize the divinity which is pervading that. Even players of modern games like cricket do not enter the cricket stadium, the cricket ground, without bowing down to the ground. One of the greatest aspects that was seen was when the Indian cricket team captain Rohit Sharma, when he won the World Cup, he bowed down to the pitch in which he played the last game. When Tenzing Norway climbed up the Mount Everest, what he did was he bowed down to the peak, saying, it is not that I have conquered this mountain, it is that this divinity has allowed me to come and she has borne me here. So thus, the recognition of divinity continuously through visual, through verbal, and through actions need to be done so that this divinity is remembered all the time. So we have all of them very beautifully inbuilt into our culture. We just need to carry those cultural aspects, and that would be beautiful. So to start every interaction with a namaste consciously, that is to reinforce the recognition of divinity. Second aspect, nothing is superficial in our lives. It is only, I would use a very strong word, it is only for the thoughtless that everything appears superficial. But for the one who is thoughtful, everything is a marvel in this universe. I can see doctors here, I can see engineers here. Isn't every part, every small part of creation a miracle in itself? Some of us here are doctors, though we say that so many births as a gynecologist we have facilitated, we recognize that each birth of a child is a miracle that happens in itself. So to every aspect of this world is a miracle for all of us to witness. So thus, to recognize, to be thoughtful, and to be awake. Puja Gurudev used to say that attention and awareness is the price that we pay for realization. So thus, to be awake and alert to the beauty of creation is to recognize the divinity. So Subramanya Bharatiyar says, Subramanya Bharatiyar is a poet in Tamil, South India. And he says, எத்தனை கோடி இன்பம் படைத்தாய் இறைவா இறைவா இறைவா. Oh Lord, how many crores of joy have you created in this world? How is it so unbelievable and astonishing that you have integrated the living with the non-living, the Chetana with the Jada, and you have made it function. This body is nothing but calcium, carbon, phosphorus, as Gurudev used to say. And look at how it is pulsating with life. How is that you infused the inert with consciousness? And it so beautifully expresses in this world. After a few lines, he is unable to continue the poem. He just stops with uttering Ireva. Ireva means God. Ireva, Ireva, Ireva. And he just stops the song. Because he is unable to proceed further, overwhelmed by this experience of Godhood. So thus to be very awake to this divinity around itself is a sadhana that all of us can do.
Thank you, Swamiji. I think we have to stop on the questions. I just wanted to have one of our Gita study group coordinators, Bhavnaji, talk about Gita Panchamrit. As you all know, that I'm going to allow Bhavnaji to speak about it, and then I will talk about Swamiji. I have to say that just as Bhagwan Shankaracharya has established so many mutts, across all over India, so too here we are able to speak or listen to you or even perhaps understand. It's the glory of Shailaja Amma, who has established several study groups amongst in our own Chinmaya Kaivalya, which is officially the last center what Gurudev has named. So because of that, there are so many active study groups that have brought so many families together, and we have been having many years, like our study group is having its going on the 10th anniversary, and so too many groups are doing this. So we meet regularly and we discuss this. So I would like Bhavnaji to talk about Gita Panchamrit.
Hari Om, Swamiji. We are so grateful that we had this beautiful opportunity to be together. I see a lot of study group members from all the groups, actually. Thank you, Gopalji, also for bringing us together this Navratri. Beautiful day to talk about the glories of Bhagwan. And this, as Gopal mentioned, Chinmaya Mission, has given us this beautiful 5 verses, which were handpicked by Pujya Swami Swarupananji and Pujya Guruji. They are it's called Gita Panchamrit. Many of you might be aware of it already, but I just wanted to take this opportunity to mention about those 5 verses, which is about transforming your life with Gita, which is the whole, it is a whole life capsule, you can say, which guides us throughout. And the first verse is from the 6th chapter, which talks about, take charge of your life and uplift yourself. But before I go into that, it is a request by all study group members to please chant it, memorize it, and as Swamiji mentioned, it will guide us. When we remember it again and again, it will lead us like the charioteer leads. Bhagwan Sri Krishna led Arjuna to victory. This will surely take us to the destination. So first verse is Uddharedatmanatmanam Natmanam avasadhayet Atmaiva hyatmano bandhuhu Atmaiva ripuratmanaha. So this is I will not go into too much detail, but this is just the first verse, which introduces to take charge of your life and uplift yourself. Then the second verse is picked from the second chapter, which is the famous Karmanye Vadhikaraste Ma Phaleshu Kadachana, is how does one uplift oneself? Even that is given, that to do our work. And the third verse tells us develop an attitude of dedication, which is from the 9th chapter, 27th verse. And the fourth verse is Bhagwan's assurance that do not, worry about anything, that he will take care, Yogakshemam Vahamyaham, right? So that is given as the assurance. And the fifth verse is Bhagwan frees us from all bondage, which is from the 18th chapter, 66th verse, which is Sarvadharman Parityajya Mam Ekam Sharanam Vraja. So that, these are the 5 beautiful verses. So let us all in our study groups, please, chant it regularly when we meet every week, so that we can memorize it and also live it. And this will be the best guide for us. And specifically, beautifully chosen by Swamiji's for us to inculcate in our lives and guide our life. Thank you, Gopal. Is anything else? Chandra.
Thank you so much, Bhavanaji, for helping us. There is a link on that page we're going to share with you. Swamini Shardananji has chanted those. So one request is, we have also put in, most of us here are Chinmaya Mission members. One of my dear friends, Dr. Krishna Madiraju, he has a study group in Washington, D.C., Virginia, with over 500 members in it. And we share our experiences every day. Swamiji, even your talk has been shared with his group, and everyone had an blessed opportunity to listen to it over and over and discuss. So we take this responsibility as, in this particular chapter, 10th chapter, 9th verse, this Bodhayasta Parasparam, like we want to talk about the glories of the Lord over and over, that itself will be the purification one will be going through. So he's also, attending to this. And so does Dr. Reena Bomasani. She also listens to Gita lectures regularly. And her father is the one who has been a great inspiration for me to continue this study, and also, with his guidance. So just wanted to give a big shout out to all the study group coordinators who are so dedicated. As you have mentioned, Swamiji, that because of Shailaja Amma Vibhuti, that she lit that lamp within us, all these groups are functioning by itself. And during this auspicious Navaratri day, taking the time to listen to the glories of the Lord, and may our eyes and our vision be ready for the Vidyarambha day, as Gurudev says, which is the Dashera. He calls it the Vidyarambha day. So may we have the vision, and may we see and realize the glory of the Lord all over. With that said, I want to thank you, Swamiji, for taking the time, and we prostrate to you, and so grateful, eternally grateful to the Guru Parampara. And thank you so much, and we hope to see you sometime very soon, hopefully at the CIRS, and Thank you again. And we see the beautiful trees, the beautiful ashram, and how the sunrise happened as we were talking, and the nice, beautiful light. So with that said, so I'm going to turn it over to, if I ask Krishna Madhurajaji if he wants to say a few words about his experiences, conducting the group in Washington, D.C.
Yeah. Namaste, Guruji, Anukoolananda ji. It was really eye-opening for us to see this 10th chapter with the vision you asked us to look at it. We have been ardent students of Gita. I've been studying it, and whatever little I was learning, I was able to share. But I think we were able to uh, grasp so much of what you have told us, especially the fact, like one of the questions that you said, like not only we should keep the general aspect, but also spend some exclusive time, personal time with Bhagavan, trying to contemplate on it. So I think that's a great piece of advice. And not only just connecting to Bhagwan as an emotion, oh, we are children of God or something like that, but to know Him as the fundamental aspect of everything pervading. Beautifully explained. It was a great eye opener. Really, it helped us. Thank you so much.
Swami, there was one question we wanted to ask you, but I guess the time doesn't permit. One of the members, Shyamalaji, was asking about what is true definition of Sharanagati. So I'm not sure if you would be able to answer that now, or should we postpone it? I'm going to leave it to you.
Of course, Sharanagati is the complete topic discussed in the entire Bhagavat. So therefore, to explain Sharanagati in just a few words would not do justice to the whole thing. But however, to become to become Bhagavan's instrument is Sharanagati. Thy will be done and not mine. That is Sharanagati. So therefore, Radha once asked Krishna, I am very jealous of your flute. No doubt you hold me near, but you keep the flute closer. And hence I am very jealous. And Krishna said, Radha, no doubt you love me and I love you so much. Yet the flute is hollow. And it lets me play the music that I wish to without interruption at all. That flute I would consider to be the greatest example or symbol of Sharanagati. Bhagavan, thine will be done and not mine. I think that would be a great reminder to all of us.
Thank you. Thank you, Swamiji. We will conclude prayers and bhajan. Ilaji, we'll turn it over to you. Thank you.
Krishna Krishna Vasudeva Krishna Krishna Vasudeva Narayana Deva Deva Narayana Deva Deva Krishna Krishna Vasudeva Krishna Krishna Vasudeva Govardhanadhari Krishna Govardhanadhari Krishna Vrindavanachari चारी कृष्ण वृंदावन चारी कृष्ण बंसीधर बाल कृष्ण बंसीधर बाल कृष्ण राधावर कृष्ण कृष्ण राधावर कृष्ण कृष्ण राधावर कृष्ण कृष्ण वासुदेव कृष्ण कृष्ण वासुदेव नारायण देव देव नारायण देव देव कृष्ण कृष्ण वासुदेव कृष्णचंद्र भगवान की जय। ॐ सर्वे भवन्तु सुखिनः सर्वे सन्तु निरामयाः सर्वे भद्राणि पश्यन्तु मा कश्चित् दुःखभाग् भवेत् असतो मा सद्गमय तमसो मा ज्योतिर्गमय मृत्योर्मा अमृतं गमय। ॐ पूर्णमद पूर्णमिदं पूर्णात् पूर्णमुदच्यते पूर्णस्य पूर्णमादाय पूर्णमेवावशिष्यते। ॐ शान्ति शान्ति शान्तिः। हरिः ओम् श्रीगुरुभ्यो नमः। हरिः ओम्। सद्गुरुनाथ महाराज की जय।
Hari Om, and thank you very much. It was nice meeting all of you. Hari Om.
Hari Om. Happy Navaratri to all of you. Jai Guru.